Good afternoon and good morning, everybody. This is Matt with Prohaska Consulting. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes with our great program here, providing great perspectives and outlooks on 2025 here in Adtech. Welcome, everybody. We've got a fantastic group, not just here to give their insights and thoughts, but also joining us here in the audience. I'm looking for the attendees here. I just realized I'm in the chat, but Magali and Mav, do we have, just looking for where we can see the...
We can see the people connected at the bottom right of the screen, next to apps, polls, questions, chat. Can you see the number of people connected? If you click on it, you can see the people connected. No, you can't?
I don't, but let's see. Mav, if you're able to, I thought it was going to pop up when we went live. Sorry about that. But why don't we get started in just 1 minute and we will share. I know we've got a great group of publishers, tech companies, brands, agencies, and others all here wonderfully. The chat will be open and questions can be shared throughout. So feel free to, again, go ahead and jump in. We want to have this be as interactive and as much of a dialogue as possible. So with that, why don't we get started? My name is Matt Prohaska. I'm the proud CEO and principal of Prohaska Consulting and your moderator for our discussion today. Joining me are three fantastic speakers. First, Magali Quintel-Remy, the CEO and founder of Opti Digital, our hosts and sponsors for today. Much gratitude to their generosity and offering to lead and bring this discussion to the industry. Joining us are Langdon Miller, the Director of Programmatic and Ad Operations at top publisher in the education and learning space, Brainly. And then Mohsin Pervez, the Senior Director of Platform Solutions and Operations throughout all of EMEA with our friends at PubMatic. So why don't we get started first? A little bit, certainly want to cover some top industry topics, and to say that there are no shortage of industry changes happening right in front of our noses here would be an understatement here. So we always want to start with the publisher first and understand what's going on the front line, and then overall strategically they're at a great place like Brainly, especially Landon having not just come through the summer and prepping for fourth quarter here in 2025, but also having recently been at the Digiday Summit. Wanted to ask about addressability and how Brainly has been taking a look at where we are right now with cookie deprecation, with more than 50% of cookies already deprecated thanks to Safari and others. Now that Chrome and Google have shifted that deprecation to users, and they announced just earlier this week that actually that will begin in Q4. So we will be finally seeing the deprecation there. How does that change or alter and shape the strategy that Brainly and your team has there?
Totally. Thanks for the introduction, Matt. Very excited to be here. I think that, I did just get back from Digiday, and I think that no one is particularly surprised that Google has, shifted liability under the user for protecting data. I don't think I am. I think it was always going to be really difficult for anyone, including the world's most powerful technology companies, to reconstruct the value of a technology that's been around. I think cookies turned 30 today, actually. I think 1994 is when they were invented. Yeah. Lou Montelli, great guy. And so that was always going to be really difficult. I don't think that Google failed. I think that Topics API, Flock, and protected audiences, they're all really interesting innovations that I think will eventually lead to a product that, although maybe not currently viable, could very well replace browser cookies. In terms of the way that strategy has changed, I don't think a lot has changed since the announcement that cookies would be around a little bit longer than we expected. I mean, we've already implemented everything that I talked about last year at Ad Monsters. This mix of deterministic and probabilistic identity solutions for the open marketplace and better first-party, contextual segmentation and bid decoration, onboarding partners that sell against unique technology format, more brand awareness campaigns. Like the minimum viable product is already live, so we're not rolling any of that back because it's been, first of all, it's been profitable, so yield is up. Some of these partners selling creative on a cost per engagement basis that we onboarded to get ahead of cookie deprecation are actually a lot more profitable than even a direct sold CPM based display campaign. And in terms of apps, CTR is kind of king. So even if a user doesn't allow us to target their IDFA, even if they opt out of ATT, we're still getting really healthy open market CPMs on high impact, low volume creative formats. That's the first thing. I also think the second thing is we would have done this. Privacy is kind of the other part here. So like cookie deprecation by technology platforms was only ever half of the equation for us. Privacy is getting more tricky to navigate in the US, especially with a primarily Gen Z demographic platform like ours. I think that, we've always wanted to shift away from more aggressive targeting methodologies, opt-in consent, parental consent for under 18 in the United States. These things, like our CMP is not necessarily set up to provide these. So given our demographic, we're just generally moving away from targeting specific users based on their behavior on other websites in favor of contextual segments and some of these other technologies. And we'd be doing that if cookies deprecated next week or in 5 years. So that's kind of how we've been.
So curious when the journey started and culturally there, how long you've been at it, because to have yield up due to contextual targeting, it feels like you guys in Brainly are on the other side of this transformation that many other of your peers have frankly been punting and waiting and trying to keep things going as long as possible with even though, again, of course, every other browser except Chrome have already made the move several years ago. We kind of see the publisher landscape in quartiles around early adopters like you guys, fast followers, laggards, and then kind of never going to get there. As someone who is, again, on the front lines and having come from another solid conference where a lot of great publishers gather, tell us culturally kind of what made the difference. And was it you? Is it others that with help that kind of sounded the alarm and said there is a better way to do this, and if we don't act now, we're going to be missing out?
Well, it was definitely not all me. Brainly's actually been contextually categorizing pages for a long time. We have scanned every page. We've used machine learning to categorize pages based on subject matter and attempting to sometimes infer the user age based on the grade level of the question. That's something we've just been doing for a while, even before, mostly for brand safety reasons. Actually, we're a 100% UGC platform. It's really important that we have multiple levels of, not just moderation, but also like being able to understand exactly what's on our pages. So that categorization started early. The move to, monetize that began probably a few years ago with direct campaigns. We had a partner that was really interested in buying every single math-related question in India. They were a tutoring service.
Wow.
So that kind of campaign has been a focus of ours for a long time because it's more, Brainly has a unique value proposition to advertisers if we have that sort of data. That's not something that a lot of publishers offer. So we've been leaning into it from an advertising perspective for probably 3 years, but we've actually been categorizing pages for longer.
Nice. Good to know that starting early helps. And as we always know, those who test and get their teams in rhythm, not just working with great tech providers and partners here, but also with buyers, will end up benefiting as we see Langdon's already on the other side. All right, before we get to Moisen at PubMatic, I want to turn to Magali here, please, and wanted to get your sense of the full view, meeting and knowing so many publishers globally. there in Europe, here in the U.S. and elsewhere. I mean, what else are what are missing from publishers to make their inventory as attractive as possible going into 25? I mean, is it leaning harder into context and showcasing that a little bit forward? What other solutions do you see, and kind of how would you see there's sort of a quartile analysis of different publishers in terms of a spectrum of who gets it and who doesn't, and who might be unfortunately left behind a little bit?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for asking. Hi, everybody. So it's a very good question. I think that when there are so many challenges to face at the same time in terms of privacy laws and concerns and technical changes, it's always good to remember like what kind of value exchange proposition publishers are offering to buyers. And I believe that one of the first things that we have to remember is to bring quality. So we have seen this trend over 2024 of publishers doing a lot of SPO, meaning cutting all the resellers to make their scripts lighter and making sure that they ensure a very good relationship with direct SSPs. I think it's a bit, it's a shame to do this blindly, just taking the direct partners only. We should rather make sure that we select the most profitable partners. And this means by doing some A/B testing, having the capabilities to do this kind of tests. Then to keep on bringing premium traffic, I think decorating bid requests, as Langdon was saying, is very important. Making sure that you are enriching the bid requests with flaws, with contextual data, with IDs. For instance, in Opti Digital, we are using a lot of probabilistic IDs in order to enable campaigns in a consentless environment, which is difficult to monetize. And then probably the last thing I'd say is it's a trend also that we've seen in 2024 and that's going to probably continue in 2025 is the sell-side curation. Like publishers really considering all their inventories and filtering, curating ad inventories. At Opti Digital, what we do is that we are, our pre-bid bid adapter is predicting the level of user attention for every request, and then bidding accordingly. And we are able to offer a premium curated inventory to advertisers with high user attention, high CTR, high viewability. So I think this is a trend that's going to continue in 2025.
Thanks, Magali. Let's turn to Moisen now, since, again, he is at PubMatic and seeing quite a bit of the history and landscape of publishers there. Just a personal note, it was neat 4 years ago during the depths and midst of the pandemic. It was PubMatic that we know launched their Identity Hub service with us, and the first ever webinar series that started when everyone was home. We called it Smarter from Home, and it's neat to see full circle this continuation thanks to Opti Digital and our guests here, and obviously continuing the pattern of just bringing people together very quickly virtually live here. Moisen, if you could share with us, please, just your perspective, not just from the sell side, but the buy side here. I mean, it appears that from, again, not just the user experience that Langdon has mentioned, some publishers make adjustments. Where do you see the spectrum and the best publishers on PubMatic's service? And then, knowing that you have buy-side perspective with all the bid requests coming in from all over the world, how is that trend in terms of the bid value? And I mean, is Langdon's Brainly team a bit of an anomaly in terms of seeing higher yield as a result, or is that sort of the meat of the curve at this point now there?
Matt, thanks for having me, and hi everyone. At PubMatic, I would say our main focus, first focus is into enhancing user privacy and supporting publishers through this whole phase of the transition which has happened. Google's announcement here was quite significant, wherein they mentioned they are delaying their cookie phasing out. But at the same time, we've seen there are some alternative signals to the third-party cookies which can drive better outcomes for the advertisers and consumers at the same time. Google's delay in phasing out, I would say, has helped us in a couple of things. One is it has given a relief to the buy side, and also it has given them, I would say, an angle to recalibrate into different things. Like you can currently see there is a shift towards the first-party data. So there are lots of, we have a massive publisher base. They are now focusing towards first-party data as a logged-in users. They are working on the authenticated solutions. That is something I feel has increased. Another thing I think Langdon mentioned that is about the increased adoption of the contextual world. I don't think it's only certain publishers. Even from SSP side, you can see we are working with the server-to-server solutions as well, wherein we are able to contextualize the pages so that the user privacy is not compromised at all. And at the same time, you just give the better value to the advertising side. Another important thing could be that, a shift towards the omni-channel advertising, okay? But privacy is the main theme, that the privacy needs to be maintained there. And then we've seen another thing, I think this has come up very recently, is about sustainable solutions as well. So wherein there are some people or some advertisers who want to focus on some of the advertisers which are carbon safe, which are carbon efficient and are sustainable as well. They don't mess with, or there isn't any load times taking place there. But if you see in this whole ecosystem, if there are SSPs who are offering a sophisticated targeting solutions to filter, suppose, premium inventory, and again, the privacy first approach is considered there, then you can see the advertisers future-proof their strategies in this challenging environment. I hope that answers.
You're definitely seeing a bit of a bifurcation then, and sort of a split between the haves and have-nots, and folks that have moved forward, and the yield is, we know from many leading SSPs, especially PubMatic, that the revenue and the bid density that goes to top publishers like Brainly and elsewhere. We're starting to see some separation, right? Where there's sort of, folks that aren't doing anything are still getting something, but not as much. And buyers are recognizing that when publishers take that tactic, the yield is higher, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because I know there is, when we divide the publishers into two, there is a list of the publishers who just want that they want to wait until end the cookies are deprecated, and then they want to go for these solutions. But there is a list of the publishers who have started adopting different areas in terms of contextualizing or first-party solutions they have started. But there's a vast majority has already progressed towards it, and they've already started adopting these solutions. And again, you can see from the buy side as well, we see a good traction who are trying to buy inventory, or actually are focusing on a solution which is different, which could future-proof them in the near future.
Nice, thanks. I want to get back to Langdon on questions about the balance and the work that's done from the monetization team that Langdon leads, along with his colleagues on editorial and site design. Your role of leading programmatic ops and ads monetization seems there would be a perception that the role is just hands on keyboard and working with buyers and with tech partners like these two great firms here. But you're having to also strike a balance and represent the the ad business around the entire user experience, right? I mean, so take Google's Core Web Vital, for example, and the UX that Brainly has created and advanced. I remember we use an analogy all the time at Prohaska when we've been trying to help other publishers that need to change the balance of having too many ads load and the temptation in the digital space of always being able to unfortunately sometimes put another 300 by 250 and another 300 by 250 out there, and then suddenly the consumer experience is a little bit obviously disrupted there and not as clean. How do you balance that, Langdon, and make sure that there's good UX, but you're able to monetize every single page? I mean, you guys have again gotten to the other side where it's not 27 ads per page with every math question that people are taking, right?
27 ads? No, Matt, the 27 ads, I would say too many per page view.
Probably, yeah.
A lot of the job is hands-on keyboard, representing Brainly's inventory across the ecosystem, signing new partners, etc., talking to Mosin about what kind of signals they want to see. I think that's totally part of the role. But we're an education platform. We're not a content site, not a typical content site, right? So latency is a really big part of our story. And like what we optimize towards. We also have a massive product team. I mean, ad product we have our own product team, 6-person team. And then there's also a very large product team within the larger organization whose responsibility it is to make sure that the product is, as good as it possibly can be, essentially. So I think that's also kind of unique. And yeah, we look at the latency of the page overall from Google's perspective, from a Core Web Vital perspective, since Google is many of our users are on Chrome. And Core Web Vitals kind of encompasses that. We also look at time to page navigation, time from page navigation to GPT script load, time to first ad request, and like creative load time. Essentially metrics that are able to tell us within from page navigation how quickly our ad stack is able to load. Some of that is covered under Core Web Vitals, some of it isn't. We also look at it from like an advertiser's perspective. Also worth noting that Brainly is a very large subscription business. So there's a lot of tests that our team runs to improve conversion to subscription. We have to work, with and around those tests and make sure that, the page isn't too heavy when placed in combination with ads. I mean, in a staging environment, our ads configuration is lightning fast all the time. Obviously that's not a real world situation. Particularly, given we have so many users and, with varying connection speeds, basically, in LATAM and APAC, Europe. So what this ends up meaning is like we prioritize server-side connections. So we run a lot of partners via TAM, or pre-bid server to server, OpenRTB server to server for video. So, I mean, for example, client-side pre-bid has been pared down significantly this year for display, sort of in an effort to make the page faster and make the auctions happen faster. Also, we anticipated the client-side would be less valuable in a world without cookies, but that turns out to be not so much the case at the moment. But, the goal is essentially to offset any revenue loss from, lack of client-side connections by getting a creative or two more per session. With a faster stack. So session length is the same, but we, could get some % more impressions per page view, which can offset the loss from client side pre-bid, less client side pre-bid partners. That's kind of the ideal trade-off for us. Sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. We've also been looking at GAM at server side tagging via GAM. It's more expensive. It's basically letting the server handle all of our requests. Instead of like making a ton of individual client-side requests to partners. So it costs more, but it could be worth the user experience. We're still exploring that. Yeah, in general, if we can put, if we can have the number of display ads on the page or pare down the pre-bid stack in favor of a creative or proof against cookie deprecation and also generates more revenue, it's higher impact. We have as I mentioned, we have a very large product team. Responsibility is focus on the user journey, and there are places in the user journey where we can push users to subscription or registration, and also monetize that engagement. So we would prefer that over like passive display monetization in general. Hope that answers the question.
Makes sense. We know there are a lot of folks that have joined midstream here before the intros and or after the intros. That was Langdon Miller from Brainly, Moisin here from PubMatic, and Magali from our hosts at Opti Digital. So Magali, we just want to turn to you because again, similar question. I mean, the stack of we've advanced quite a bit from publishers like Brainly and hundreds of others having 9 different SSPs, throwing the spaghetti or name your favorite food against the wall and see what sticks, and then try to understand how to optimize from that. But when it comes to load times and just the heavier stack and not knowing as much what one SSP is doing versus the other, I mean, it not only can slow down performance, obviously, but create a lot of confusion and not understanding, if you're doing A, B, C, D, E, F testing all at the same time, obviously difficult for one value there. How are you, seeing and how does Opti Digital kind of manage that trade-off of wanting to test and give everybody as much of a shot as possible, but making sure again that it's prioritized and not creating too heavy a burden on the publisher team along with the audiences that they serve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what Langdon was saying about Brainly is even more true when it comes to, let's say, news media publishers or magazine media publishers, which are suffering a high competition, right? And especially in SEO. What we've seen is that the Core Web Vital scores are taken into consideration every core update more heavily, right? So before it wasn't considered at all, and then little by little it's becoming one of the key elements that's taken into account by Google. We've seen many publishers in EMEA and in North America affected by Google core updates in March, in August, and we believe that the ad stack, even if it's essential for monetization, it has a role to play to make sure that it's not affecting negatively the user experience. We are seeing websites which are actually having more requests and more calls basically run by the ad stack than by the website itself. So it's a bit crazy. There is something that we've done recently at Opti Digital. We ran some tests, and I have the figures here next to me. What we did is running tests on the weight and the number of requests and calls that are done by the ad script on several publishers in Europe and in the USA. And on average, we are seeing an ad script that weighs 1.6 megabytes and an average of 300 requests. And what we're doing at Opti Digital is 300 kilobytes and only 30 requests. So it's like 5 times lighter.
Sorry, just again,
3 times less requests. Yeah.
The 300 requests on average over what time period?
At the start, at the page load, which is terrible for SEO. Yeah. So it's what we've done is that we haven't removed very key features that are very important for monetization. We have kept them, like dynamic ad insertion on the page, dynamic price flooring, ad refreshes. But what we've done is that we have completely re-engineered our script. So that was in 2023. For all our publishers using our wrapper. And we have completely changed also the logic of going from a client-side header bidding to a server-side, but also calling directly server-side header bidding without going through Privy.js. And this is making, it has a positive impact, of course, on the SEO ranking, because Core Web Vitals are green again, and also it has a positive impact on the revenue, because we are able to measure a positive impact on the ad loading speed. the ads are going to load much faster, which is extremely important now. Our audiences are so mobile heavy, and we are gaining some nice volumes of impressions and more revenue thanks to this. So it's a kind of optimization which is key to please Google ranking, but also for your monetization. It goes all together. And I believe that it's going to set a new standard. When it comes to SEO, the important thing is not to have the best website, is to have a better website than the competitors. So if you have a light site with a light ad script on page, then you are going to rank higher and above your competitors. This is going to protect your organic audience, and it's positive for the audience and for the revenue, so for the whole media business.
Yeah, it's that's encouraging to hear, first of all, that it's getting lighter and that the rules of the game and how performance dictated showing up for on not just on search algorithms, but just overall recognition from all tech partners that again the better way to treat audiences and the easier, simpler way with fewer, better, richer ads are going to win. And it leads me to actually ask Moisen, please, about different ad formats again, since PubMatic is working with pretty much every ad format and channel out there. I remember we were at Prohaska proud to have helped rep the first rich media agnostic firm that was integrated into RTV, ReactX, 9.5 years ago now. And so we know that we're way beyond flat image 300 by 250s here in terms of being able to provide a rich experience for audiences and monetize as much as possible appropriately. What's the landscape looking like on those ad formats? If it is again not just 27 300 by 250s down the right rail, but as Magali mentioned, fewer calls, fewer impressions, but richer and more valuable. Would guess at higher CPMs and overall better RPM for the publishers. How do you see the ad format trend changing there at PubMatic?
So when it comes to various ad formats we see flowing through PubMatic, we see native and video ads, or video in particular, maybe in CTV environments. They are leading in terms of the user engagement and overall effectiveness in today's advertising landscape. Now, native ads, there are two different reasons why, or maybe why we think, there could be two different reasons. One is that native ads are, they integrate into the websites seamlessly, into the content properly, and they are more immersive in nature and less intrusive. And again, I think, the prior discussion, which was on the core web vitals as well. So it usually does not impact the scores when it is the native experience. And it is definitely doing well with good click-through rate as well. Okay. On the other hand, when you see in terms of the monetization or in terms of, making money for the publisher. So video ads, since, if you look at the CTV, they emerged as a top performer in the industry. It is, and there is a reason. I won't say, I'm not sure if it is because of pandemic, because, most of the people, the whole content has gone, everything is now video. Maybe before pandemic, something different was there. But if you see right now with increase in shift to the streaming services, video ads, they offer the dynamic, content or interactive content is there. They make it more effective in capturing the attention, okay, and they drive the engagement. That is about these two formats. But in addition to this, there are some formats which are in-app. They are more, tailored. They are like, if you can think of rich media ads in-app world, they are more personalized. They are more engaging. That is something I feel is taking another third ad format we see is picking up. And again, if you see with this whole cookie deprecation, e-commerce that is suddenly picking up. And you could clearly see that we see a lot of interest on-site and off-site sponsored listings. Okay, when we say on-site and off-site, you clearly can see, you can follow the users when some certain data you can identify in some way without identifying them, but you can have a better conversion rates there. But those are 3 to 4 formats I would say are particularly doing well when it comes to the whole Adtech industry.
It's basically the same audience extension play, but in commerce media for different ad formats now, right? Sort of what is old is new again.
I would say yes. And again, I think it is, if you see the privacy laws everywhere now in Europe, and I guess now it's in USA as well. They've released 5 or 6 laws. It's going to be in Middle East as well. I believe IAB is working on that as well. But yes, you're right. E-commerce or commerce is more, I would say, more user-centric, although they have the user's data, but they don't have it because it's that the user's privacy is not compromised in those areas at all. You are able to target without knowing who the user is.
I also, just to like tack on, one question that I've been sort of mulling over is how important SEO really is in a time when Google Overlay is live and popular. I mean, the overlay does not promote click out to publish your website. Like having a lighter site is always preferable, but I mean, is Core Web Vitals still a North Star? How important is SEO really to publishers post May? I'm not exactly sure. But I know Google Overlay is damn popular, and so are other generative search products. So it's kind of, I think the dynamic has shifted a little bit. Core Web Vitals has always been really popular to publishers or important to publishers, but I don't know if it's still the North Star.
Yeah, great point. And, history lesson for those of you those in the audience don't know the company Demand Media, great group of folks who suffered the challenge of being dependent on one company's formula when something called Panda was basically a search algorithm that changed their entire model, blew up within 3 months because they were dependent on the way one company did things. And we know not just when it comes to search, great point, Langdon, but also in many other areas, a balance and a variety of tech partners and strategies to be able to develop and maintain audiences organically and elsewhere is pretty important. Anybody who hasn't used perplexity.ai and wants to see a little bit of a snapshot of what the world of search and discovery could be going forward, an unsolicited plug for them as well. But speaking of AI in general, those of you keeping bingo cards on this webinar, wondering if that would be a topic, yes, you can mark off that square for those of you at home. So as we know, we all have on this panel, and I would think most people in the audience already know that AI has played a pretty central role in our industry from the get-go. Machine learning, as we know, is a subset of AI overall. So when companies or investors or analysts wonder, gee, what's your company doing with AI, and asking a standard question, typically it's, well, we've been kind of doing that for a little while now, but all along. But in terms of streamlining operations overall, I want to turn to Magali on this, please. How are you seeing some of the wins now coming for new use cases, not just around the buying and selling and transacting of ads, but being able to use it for more predictions around price and discovery, using it for media planning for buyers, but also, making sure that, again, publishers have their inventory and audiences exposed in open and through programmatic direct appropriately, so that machines and humans can be leveraged in balance. Again, one of the themes of today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose that AI may be used at different levels of the ecosystem, the programmatic advertising ecosystem, by buyers, by sellers, by the different players in the chain. We believe that there are nice opportunities also to help you price your inventory. So about 2 years ago at Opti Digital, 3 years ago, we developed a technology which is a dynamic price flooring technology, which is using AI to actually segment the audience. So it captures signals in real time. It's analyzing them. And according to all those signals, it could be the device, it could be the browser, whether it's a refreshed impression or a new impression, and then some seasonality aspects also, like the weekday, the hour during the day, and so on. It's setting and defining the optimal floor to maximize the yield, to maximize the RPM, right? So this is one of the use cases where AI can be very useful, and especially when we think about companies like Brainly or large media groups like Vertical Scope or Prisma Media, which have a very diverse audience, global audience, and they cannot be manually setting floors for every segment. So it's very important to have technologies that help you predict the best floor and apply it. And I mean, it's not only related to AI, it's also related to how you do it. You have different ways to set up floors. As an example, if you do it in your Google Ad Manager or in your Publisher Ad Server, you are going to apply it only post-bid, and only Google knows. Our philosophy is to actually send it upfront in the bid request to all the bidding partners. So everybody has this information in the bid request before they bid. And it makes the auction more competitive, more efficient as well. So that's one of the things that we believe can be done thanks to AI. But there are so many opportunities that AI is opening. You know, for example, we could have AI to create new ad formats, as Mohsin was saying, on the go, on the fly. So yeah, there are plenty of areas where AI could be useful to actually help publishers maintain their revenues.
Thanks. Mohsin, want to ask about how it's being leveraged either by publishers that PubMatic is seeing, or that PubMatic is already working on and enhancing. We know that so many of the services offered from tech partners and other providers is a balance of managed service and self-service. Not everyone can be a Langdon Miller. Not everyone is able to put the hands on keyboard and own the strategy as well, and everything on top. So, how are PubMatic's services kind of been adjusting to leverage this and take advantage of some of the things that Magali mentioned?
Thanks, Matt. Yes. So when it comes to AI, I would say it is now in the core DNF of every Adtech company. Okay. I think, as Magali mentioned, that they are doing, when they are sending an impression, they have to segment an impression into different things, then only they send. From the SSP side, now AI could be into different things, as I said, suppose releasing certain softwares. I don't want to touch that, but since you asked on the, how do we basically send a bid out, or what exactly do we do there? Let me quote an example. Imagine we receive 50 million or 50 billion impressions a day from a set of collective publishers. And if we are connected with 100 DSPs, that means we will have to send 50 billion into 100, which is 5 trillion impressions we will have to send to the DSPs. Okay, it's just an example I'm saying. Now, the challenge there is that it is a massive waste of infrastructure, because our DSP is in a position to handle all these impressions or the bid requests. And at the same time, from this side, is all these bid requests, are they all available? Meaning that, are they in a better shape? Are they healthy enough to be sent out? What if DSPs do not bid on all of them? Okay. Sometimes DSPs do work with the exchanges and tell them, filter out the bids. or send us only the bids for certain geographies, or only the impressions where the cookies are present, or anything else is there. But there are two things where we could have done it. I'm just moving towards the AI, but there is a manual part as well. So manually, a publisher could go into an ad server, as Bagley mentioned, or even I would say a publisher could come into the PubMatic SSP and filter only certain geographies, or we could filter out certain platforms or certain publishers. But that does not do a justice to the real-time bidding, because real-time bidding is like, it's evolving. What is happening right now, you might see that after 5 minutes, the whole landscape will be different. You never know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. So a traffic shaping came into existence. So when you look at the SSPs, I don't think it is something new. We have been doing machine learning from last 8-10 years, because we have been facing these challenges. When header bidding came into picture, we started to see a lot of influx of impressions from same publisher. It comes now to us 10 different variations to us. It hits us. Now, it became a challenge for the SSPs, and from the DSP side, maybe we can't send that many impressions out at all. So SSPs like PubMatic started leveraging machine learning to analyze, learn the bids from past activity, maybe in the last 5 minutes, what happened. If we have seen that a bid is not being monetized from the DSP side, is similar bid worth sending out? Or do you need to filter it out? Or AI allows us to check the health stats of the bid. Does it have I'm just going to pick 8 to 10 things, but it could be more than that. Maybe, does it have a cookie? Does it have a first party audience attached to it? Does it have a contextual segment attached to it? So there could be multiple things. Is it right for the perfect geo? Now, this AI, these parameters get fed into our machine learning algos. Machine learning, what it does, there are then traffic shaping models that continuously learn. So they are not like static, only they listen to 8 to 10 parameters. There are 1,000 parameters. If you imagine a new parameter comes today, machine learning will pick it up in next 5 minutes, learn it. Is DSP bidding on these impressions if there is a new parameter? So we usually learn these about these bid patterns. We apply these things into the algos, and they decide what could happen. So this allows us to pre-filter certain impressions which are not healthy. And at the same time, when DSPs are bidding back, we do filtering on that side, I would say. Is that ad good enough to be shown on a publisher? Is it violating the brand quality or inventory quality guidelines or anything else? So I think it's both. When we send it out, there is definitely a lot of study that needs to happen, but there is a limited time when we need to study it, maybe a couple of seconds. But yeah, we do have certain algos in place that allows us to study these things, and then we see whether we want to send it out or not.
Thanks. Langdon, that all makes sense? Is that needed? Anything else you wanted to add on? I know we've already gotten into traffic generation overall and shifting strategies and tactics, using or not using AI. Anything else that you'd say in terms of kind of where Brainly is in your strategy and how it's being leveraged, and what else you'd be looking for from tech partners like this?
Totally. I mean, okay, so I think given that we're the publisher, we're the ones originating advertising inventory, we think about, traffic shaping sort of like from first principles. Most of the traffic shaping changes that we make are made, to not send out erroneous ad requests. So we optimize for ad request eCPM, kind of at its most basic level. And we do this because we can measure that. Honestly, it's really hard for us to determine which partners are effectively using AI and who just has unique demand. There's been a lot of talk about AI in the last few years. Everyone is, attempting to show that they, use and have sort of like mastered those technologies. It's a little bit difficult for us to measure as a publisher, but we can measure ad request eCPM. We optimize for CTR on display units around the world, trying to get Google AdWords to optimize towards our inventory, capture CPC dollars. We cut refresh. We even cut ad units entirely, sort of the nuclear option. Another thing that we do is we pause our video auction when the unit is out of view. This can decrease revenue in the short term, but it actually does improve, VCR and viewability and sort of the perception of our inventory in the open marketplace, which is, again, kind of the way that we see, that's, the primary way that we see traffic shaping as being measurable and impactful. And those optimizations do need to be done in conversations with, MOSIN and other SSP partners to explain sort of the strategy and why we are the ones surfacing inventory the way that we are. Why we are the ones surfacing that inventory and, cutting ad requests that, again, could be erroneous. That's kind of the way that we see it. I mean, in terms of automated solutions, we use Magnite Demand Manager, and they want us to let them change things like bidder prioritization and timeouts and floors based on some machine learning on their back end. Their commercial model is a little bit odd, but that's one example of a product that we've tested in the past. Also Opti Yield, we use them. We like their commercial structure. That's kind of how we've been thinking about traffic shaping in AI.
Thanks. Speaking of performance, that was really helpful. Langdon, to be able to, remind everybody that while there might be different ways to get there, your KPIs and how you're valuing performance for monetization and for your audiences are still pretty consistent. Magali, I know you guys at Opti Digital had wanted to share an example about some performance that you guys have seen from some others, right? Before you do, we know we've got great folks on here from Chegg, from El Debate, from Everyday Health Group. Feel free to ask questions here anytime in the chat, but we'll be getting to kind of wrap up and final thoughts here in just a couple minutes. But Magali, go ahead. I think you wanted to share an example of a working opportunity there.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of examples to share of publishers which may be using specific solutions that we are offering, like the dynamic flow pricing Opti Yield, or our bid adapter Opti Engage, or our full service monetization wrapper all-in-one. A couple of things that I wanted to react on after Mohsin and Langdon on traffic shaping. That's something that we believe is a very powerful trend also, where the sell side is actually empowered again to measure and control which ad requests they are sending. From the publisher's perspective, it makes total sense to actually optimize based on eCPM per ad request. But actually, there is something else that we are always thinking at when we are developing technologies, is how we can really partner with SSPs like Mohsin and other large SSPs to improve the profits they are pulling per 1,000 requests. We know they have very high infrastructure costs for receiving and treating all those requests and answering them. And so we are showing them the work by doing some traffic shaping. We are showing them, we are preparing the traffic, so we send them only the traffic that they really like and they are really likely to buy in the future. Now, just wanted to share an example of a media that we started to work with about 6 months ago, which is Gizmodo.com, and it's a tech website which has a great content for people passionate about technology and software and hardware. And they went from another technology to ours, and we are protecting their core web vitals. They are getting good revenues, and they are using our very light script together with our traffic shaping technology, our flooring technology, and so on. So I think that the great thing about these trends, they all go into the same direction. It's fine to be doing some selection of partners based on which ones are the most profitable in terms of ad request CPMs. Also in terms of selecting them, not calling everybody, but making sure that we are calling only the best ones in order to be more sustainable and also to bring value to all the programmatic chain. And by doing so, by doing this selection, by doing this improvement, this curation of the inventory, you actually get a more premium traffic, more premium inventory, which is on the midterm going to improve the revenue of the publisher, because advertisers are going to find what they're looking for, the good inventory, which is premium enough so they can spend their investment on it. So it's great. I think it's we can be more sustainable, more efficient, and also more profitable at once.
Nice. Great to hear. Thanks, Magali. Before we get to everyone's, I want to ask everyone in our final questions here about, one area in 2025 where predictions, things will get a little bit better, or a request that you would have of your various partners, whether it's a publisher of their tech partners or tech partners of their publishers. But we see we've got a question here. Thanks, Guillaume, for this. And maybe Moisen, you can take this to start. First, how does server side compare to client side? I know you were touching on some of those differences here when it comes to monetization and header bidding, and Magali and Langdon, if you have thoughts on that with how you've seen differences as well.
So I think I did mention about the algos which do see every bid request. And part of the algo is, again, when we see a bid request is sent to multiple DSPs at the same time, if there are DSPs who are taking more time in responding to the bid requests, that usually is never making to the publisher's page. It doesn't matter even if he has 20, 30x more bid than other DSPs, because it is a very time sensitive environment. We have to make sure that publisher pages are not impacted at all. Same thing is applicable from on the server side as well. If you see the health stats of a server side bid is same as client, because we've seen usually client side bids are very healthy, because you get to read the page, you get to see every parameter there. Server side, when people take these bids into the server side, if they maintain the same health, I think then server side bid is definitely a worth. If that health state is somewhere deteriorated, meaning that you get the segment details of a bid, but you don't send that in the bid request, then there is no point in sending it out. Or if you get in current environment, I think it's still cookied. And if you get a cookie of a user and then you don't send that cookie in the bid request currently in server side, then it doesn't qualify against the client side. So as long as you maintain the health of the bid from the client to server, then I think server makes more sense, because parameters are there, plus it is very easily and it's light.
Langdon or Magali, any perspective or difference opinion there?
Well, I mean, I think, if you don't mind, Langdon, there is one thing which is great about server-side header bidding from the publisher's perspective is this possibility to actually test new partners without deploying a new client-side package on the media. And this is great, because you're not making your script heavier again. And the second advantage is also reducing the number of client to server requests. So you are going to accelerate the ad loading speed, and you reduce the latency of the ads, which is good for the website. So, but there is something that I've seen. I speak with a lot of media publishers every day, and sometimes they really think that by adding a pre-bid server bid adapter onto their pre-bid JS, they are going to be more sustainable. And but they are just adding more connections, and this is not okay. I mean, if you want to be more sustainable and to protect the profits of your SSPs so that they keep on investing on you, then you'd rather disconnect them from the client side, make sure they are connected on the server side, and it's the whole infrastructure that you have to think again about. If you want some advice on how to or some audit of how the bidding is done on your site, we can talk about it. But yeah.
Just to jump in, sort of pivoting, I'd like to hear, Matt, you asked what I'd like to hear from our partners, what kind of signals their buyers prefer. Right now, it's like a shotgun. It's everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once. PPS, ID bridging partners, probabilistic partners, is that the right approach? I don't know, but I'd love to hear from our open marketplace partners about what is valuable to them. Because right now we make that decision based on performance, but maybe that isn't the right way to do it.
Yeah, everything, everywhere, all at once sounds like a great movie title, but not a great way to be able to optimize and understand what buyer demand is really asking for, to be able to prioritize things when everyone's checking all of the above on the quiz there. Thank you, Landon. Moisen, I know we're running short on time here, but please give us either one request back to publishers or of other tech partners or buyers in 2025 here.
So let me begin. I would say, since I think cookies is currently a very hot topic, and deprecation, maybe it is delayed, it is not far. But I would say for the publishers is to stay adaptable, be ready to adjust your strategies as the landscape, the whole, it's an evolving industry. Regularly test new things. If you think, PubMatic or any other SSP, it doesn't matter which SSP it is, if they have come up with a new tech to combat the whole cookie-less environment, start testing them and get closer to the buyers, because the earlier you get close to the buy side, they'll get to know, yes, there are the publishers who are adopting these things, and it is going to secure your future. So I would say stay adaptable and keep on testing the new things.
Thanks, Moisen. And our final word and requests and thoughts, Magali.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Moisen. I think publishers must remain very nimble, be able to A/B test things, having the right tools and the right reporting to do so. Let's get prepared, anticipate. We don't know when cookies will be deprecated from Chrome, at which pace, but it's very important to anticipate and to do it as soon as possible. So this is one thing. And then I think working on the quality, on the curation of the inventory, I think is key as well.
Certainly is. Thank you. For those who are looking for additional identity partner help, you can always go to prohaskaconsulting.com, take a look at our identity partner landscape. We're on version 5.5, 6.0 is coming out soon. More than 100 companies that have developed either deterministic, probabilistic, or contextual solutions here, but you'll also be in good shape getting that guidance from these two great tech partners, or a certain pretty good all-star peer in Langdon. A special thanks to Langdon Miller from Brainly, Moisen Pervez from PubMatic, and our host Magali from Opti Digital. As you could tell, her accent is better than mine, so merci beaucoup on behalf of the entire team there in France and around the world. And a special thank you to the more than 150 of you that have joined us here on this webinar. Great discussion, great questions, and plenty of great opportunity to follow up with these three fine experts in the field. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day and week, and best wishes the rest of this year and in 2025. Merci.
Thank you. Bye.